It's Ashrith from Beatworx, and I'm here to bust a popular myth based around making music. A lot of people might tell you that you need the best drum machine or the best synthesizer to start making music, and that's not entirely true. I'm here to bust that exact myth and show you how powerful Ableton Live can be and the sounds that come with it. In fact, I'm putting a restriction on myself and telling myself that I'm going to use nothing more than the 909 core kit and the 808 core kit and the sounds that come with it, of course. Restrictions can be amazing because it lets you think creatively, think out of the box, and come up with ideas that you probably wouldn't otherwise. That's the whole point of this, and without any further ado, let's dive right into it. Alright, so here I am in the browser, and I have the 909 core kit in front of me, and I'm going to load that up into a track. Let's program a 4 to the floor bass drum pattern with this. And I'll also insert another MIDI track so I can look for just the 909 kick. That one should work well. Let's load that up. Now let's play the 4 to the floor rhythm that we made on the kick earlier. Using the secondary kick, I'm going to program a bass pattern. Let's see how that sounds. After a little bit of adjusting the velocities, I think we have a decent pattern to work with. I'm going to turn down the volume on that and sidechain this to the kick. Let's also rename these tracks so it's easy for us to figure out what's what. Apply a little bit of reverb onto this so it fills out the spectrum. I'm going to use the hybrid reverb instead of the regular one because I get this built-in stereo control and a few other features that are exciting to work with. Next, let's load an instance of auto filter on this and turn down the volume. That's a great starting point we have. Now let me go back to my drums and load the 909 core kit one more time so we can start using the other sounds that come with it. Let's use the crash and make an atmosphere out of it. You're probably wondering how that's possible because the crash is this very high-pitched, resonant sort of sound, right? So let's program that pattern and let's load an instance of collision Corpus onto this. Now let's drench that in some reverb. There we have it. Let's tune this to a key of our choice. In this case, I'm going to go with G. Let's go an octave lower. I would like for that knob to modulate. So let's load an LFO and get that going. In fact, I'm going to switch over to synced rate and set this to say around 2 bars. play around with the phase until we get something nice. I'm fairly happy with that, but I don't like how high pitched that's sounding. So let's load a filter onto this. And trim those frequencies down. Let's also process the kick and the bass. I'm going to load an EQ, cut away some of the lows. Also just make a little bit of a notch around here in the mids, around 200 Hertz. And use a shelf to just give it some body on the bottom end. Let's process the bass tom as well. Alright, so let's rename that track. Add another MIDI track and let's load another instance of the 909 core kit. We probably need some kind of a synth that can hold everything together. Let's go ahead and use a sequencer. I like this sequencer called Foreplay. If I'm not wrong, I think it's made by Sonic Faction and it's part of this pack called Tricky Traps. Now I'm going to use just one pitch on all the notes, set the rate to a 1/16 and load an instance of the pitch MIDI effect along with this. So this gives me control over what sound I'm about to play here on the drum rack. Let's play maybe the mid tom or the high tom. Okay, I quite like that. Now next, let's make this 6 steps. Great. Now, it doesn't really sound like a synth yet, right? So let's go over to the tom. Let's shorten the decay a bit. And let's load an instance of the Spectral Resonator on this. If you remember, we set the key on Corpus to a G earlier, so I'm going with the same key again here. Just play around with the stretch. I like that tone. Now let's add a little bit of delay or echo on this, just to give it some space. Let's go with ping pong. I already like that. Now let's add an instance of auto filter after the resonator, and I'll also add an instance of the amp before the resonator. This gives the synth a better character and a lot of bite, and it feeds a hotter signal into the resonator that translates into a more brighter sound. Okay, amazing. I'm quite happy with that. So let's call this synth A. Next, let's make a sequence with some notes changing up and down. So I'm going to use the cowbell for this one. Let's look for the 808 cowbell. I'm going to load the audio file so I can play around with the pitch. Next, let's also load a little bit of reverb on this. In fact, I'm going to use the reverb on a return track, discard the one that was already there, push up the decay time just a little bit, and let's come up with a sequence. So I don't want this sounding like a cowbell, right? So let's go over to the controls and play around with the transpose. I quite like it there, but it's got a lot of low end frequency, so let's shave that off with an EQ. And also I'm going to add an instance of Corpus on this again. Liking that quite a bit. Let's send this to a little bit of delay as well. Let's call that Synth B. And I think it's time to do some drums now. So let's go back into our drums folder and let's load the 808 core kit. And I'm going to do a hi-hat. Very straightforward, simple hi-hat like this one. Should work really well. Let's duplicate that. I like control over things, so I'm doing it this way, but you can feel free to do it however you like. So I'm going to use these 3 notes here and loop them. Notice how I've skipped the step where the other hat was. Let's quantize that to be sure. Okay, great. So I need a little bit of movement on this sound, so let's see how we can achieve that. Great. Let's get that modulated with an LFO. I'm going to sync this. I'm going to go for a much slower LFO this time. Awesome. Let's give this some character with the help of, say, a drum bus. Okay, amazing. Now let's go over back to add another MIDI track, and let's do some 909 drums now. I quite like using rides. So I'm going to go with a simple pattern like that, and let's sidechain that to the kick. A little less harder. I'm actually going to rethink the sidechain on the bass tom as well. Okay, that's great. We already have quite a solid idea with all these sounds that we have going on. Of course, there's a lot more you can do, such as you can go back to your main synth, automate the filter a bit. Maybe let's give it some automation right here. Let's do some modulation with the rate. Let's push up the resonance just a bit, and I'll also EQ this out. We could also play around with the decay on the Spectral Resonator. velocities on these notes just a bit. Let's see what else we can do. Let's go back to the drums. Let's just type in 808 and let's look for maybe a tom, an 808 high tom. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, that's great. Now let's play a quick simple pattern with this. Loop that there. Let's quantize this, crop the clip. I think I'm going to rethink where this note is positioned. In fact, I just got another idea. Why don't we use a sequencer for this? Let's use this guy, foreplay again. I have a feeling this could work really well. Oh, I quite like that already. Let's play around with the pitch a little bit. Let's also play around with the start point. Also pump up the gain just a bit. Okay, that's amazing. I'll go with one voice because I want this to be a monophonic sound. Let's maybe go up another octave and see what happens. What we have here now is the bones for a track. Let's wait for part 2 of this video, which I'm going to make very soon, where I'll expand on this idea and finish this off into a track. I hope this was as fun and inspiring as it was for me, and I hope you can take back something from here. The takeaway for me personally is you don't need a lot of hardware to make music. The only thing that you need is here, your ideas and your creativity. And limitations and imposing limitations on yourself can bring out the best in you and get your creative juices flowing. So see you in the next one where I'll complete this into a track, and thanks for watching.